What is up guys, Rraec here with new video, and today we just got a new Star Soul, and a few people over on SG Hub, by the way, joined that server down in the description for some cheap starry gems, have asked me to talk about my initial impressions of it, to talk about whether or not this might be the new go-to Star Soul, and of course I will do that. We can check it out right here over in the Star Whisper Palace, and I've already read through all of these skills and have to say, well, it's insane. It looks absolutely insane. I was hoping for a Star Soul that kind of gives us a few more defensive options. Also looking for that in Transcendence heroes at the moment. A few more support heroes would do the game, well, a real favor in that the meta at the moment is rather bursty. It is based on death effects. It is horrible in my opinion, I'll be honest. And I was hoping that maybe a Star Soul or some form of support would kind of bring us more to sustain meta, which I in general find a little bit more enjoyable. But with defense ignoring effects and like those on-death super bursts with mark damage, that has become rather difficult. So I was kind of hoping we would see something that would kind of change that. And in a way, we got it. But also, this is like absolute madness. I don't know. I have no idea what they thought here. It is, yeah, I don't even know what to say. Usually there's like one skill where I say, not too great. But really, on this one, not at all. It is a madness. Let's take a look. After the hero acts each time, which is like any single action, like a basic attack, active skill, the effect will be triggered. Inflicts Root of Confusion on one random enemy, which is a little bit weirdly formatted here, but the description actually changes the owner's basic attack to deals 1% of attack damage to all enemies and restores self 1% of attack HP. Sounds very, very good. In PvP, maybe this might be nice. In PvE, the problem is that those enemies still have a bunch of holy damage, so in some situations this might still hurt, and if their damage is like based on HP and triggered through passive effect, this might not actually reduce their damage at all. So we'll see. For some heroes this effect might be great to stack it on them, for some not that much, so we'll have to take a look at that. For 3 rounds, by the way, which is good duration. This doesn't say whether it is a CC or a skill effect. I assume it is a skill effect, so probably not purifiable, which is rather nice. And grants 1 layer of vigor on 1 random ally for 15 rounds. 15 rounds, entire duration of the fight. Madness. Well, for most fights. Some fights don't have the 15 duration cap. What is vigor? And that is the mad part. Check this out. When vigor is obtained, the owner also gains one of the following effects. So they gain vigor and then one of the effects. And the effects are, one of which, increases attack by 15%. Already great. Damage reduction? Speed by 75 for PvP, insane. If that lands on the right hero, can be absolutely bonkers. Control immunity by 15%. Well, I mean, great, okay. Block, dodge scaling. Absolute madness. Thing is though, this can get ignored by heroes like IHP, so in that sense for PvP, can be interesting, but you still want to get your dodge star spawn up to kind of counter that. Can be very, very nice though against bosses. Maybe Star Expedition boss could be great. Just dodge the attack. Very, very nice. Stacking that maybe with the dodge Star Soul. That could be something. I can look forward to that. All damage dealt stacking. I mean, we kind of do that already quite a lot with Candycane and stuff, but still, I take an extra 15% all damage dealt all day. Keep in mind, Vigor can be stacked up to 15 layers. Can be stacked up. 15 layers, typos, DH exclusive, up to 15 layers. So I mean, if you just get attack, that is 225% attack, could be a madness, but I mean, you will get a mix of those. Still, I like a mix of those. Those are good stats and could be very, very nice. The speed, though, a little bit of an issue. Like in the heavily designed Star Expedition comes speed order is always a thing that is rather important. Around an effect like Mystic Fairy Freya's Core, for example, if you use her, you can easily play around by adjusting your speed order so that there are gaps in between that allow for her core to stack, and even if it falls off on one hero. That is something you can kind of counter, but potentially having a speed increase of over 1,000, I mean, if you get 15 speed stacks, yeah, they just calculate that. That is, what is that, 1,125? I mean, you certainly won't have that gap. Between some heroes, maybe, but certainly not between every single one. So keeping the speed aura intact with that in the game, kind of difficult. But we have the next thing coming already. When Vigor is stackable to 5 layers, gains fulfillment. And I was like, oh my god, what is fulfillment? And it doesn't say it here, it does say it though in the next effect. And with that, we come to the Star Soul Burst, which is on all Star Souls like a more insane effect triggered after your hero acts 3 times. So does 3 basic attacks, does 3 active skills, doesn't matter, basically will happen after the hero attacks on turn 3 if he was able to attack before that. So the effect will be triggered after the next action. It says right here, so after the next action would then actually be turn 4. We'll see if that is the way it works actually. Grants fulfillment to 1 random ally. So the effect we only get after 5 vigor stacks are stacks, but we will see other options to do so later on. And that is the effect that we now immediately get. And 1 layer of vigor to the rest of the allies, to basically the 1 random, as far as I understand, as far as it's written right here, we grant fulfillment to 1 ally and to all the other layers, a layer of vigor, which is already great. Team-wide buffs are already nice. Fulfillment, so now it becomes a little bit complicated, and well, not really complicated, it's just the H's way to describe it. For each hero, up to 1 fulfillment effect can become effective. So there is a variety of effects, one of which can become effective for them. And the same fulfillment effect cannot be stacked, so you can't get the same effect twice. Fulfillment cannot be obtained after reaching the max limit. Whenever fulfillment is obtained, one of the following text effects will take effect randomly. And at that point, I was looking at the drink that I had here and was checking whether or not this had some alcohol in it or some other substances that I probably shouldn't drink at all, but turns out was water. So yeah, I guess I read that correctly. Offsets the next received control effect and is immune to this control effect during the battle, which is just the Candycane effect. Absolute madness. So we get full control immunity to 1 single control effect. In a scenario like Star Expedition, where we only have like 3 control effects, that just makes us immune to 1, which is absolutely insane. It takes 1/3 of the control effects for this hero out of the equation. Absolutely great. Next one, offsets the next received dot damage over time, burn, poison, bleed. And I was of course thinking like, oh, Valk, great. Problem is, well, we have to act 3 times. Usually if you lose to a Valk stage, it is within the first few turns, so probably not that great for that, but we can become immune to a damage over time effect, which is a kind of unique effect we haven't seen yet, offsetting a damage over time effect and becoming immune to it. As far as I know, the age, this has a 100% chance to be bugged. We'll see about that. Self has 100% less chance to take crit damage. The Ferrocune Vesa effect, so we can no longer take crit damage once we have that. So that is a madness. That was great on Ferrocune Vesa. I have to say, I tested it a little bit more in some recent times and really didn't add much to survivability in PvP because we now have mark damage, which doesn't really crit. So yeah, I don't know. It's certainly no longer as strong as during the time when Ferrocune Vesa was released. Still, nonetheless, a very powerful effect that takes away a lot of the damage an enemy could otherwise inflict on you. Attacks launched by self cannot be blocked or dodged. Kind of a counter to this, I guess. Not that huge, I think, in my opinion. I mean, now with a little bit more dodge stacking from 2 Star Souls now, could become more relevant, in my opinion. The block part, not really. The dodge part, all the way more. Another hit to HHA, by the way, who's already like laying on the ground, not feeling too well, I have to say. Basic attacks and active skills deal extra 1500% attack damage and additionally reduce the target's attack by 15% for 2 rounds. So as far as I read this, you can get this on all heroes, basically. Yeah. Is a little bit of a madness. I mean, you would have to stack that a lot, you would have to activate that a lot, and the triggering conditions with this alone aren't too easy, but we have a ton of super powerful effects in here. Certainly, I would say, yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of competition, I guess, to Spectre in that sense. Spectre is super powerful, and the Spectre Star Soul Burst is a lot shorter. Still has a ton of super powerful effects in there. I mean, would I prefer this? I mean, I kind of like the predictability of it. So, will be a tough battle. I think for final decision on whether or not one or the other is better, I would have to test it a bit more, but having this on the team, well, it certainly sounds enticing. So let's look into the passive skills, because there are some interesting things in it. Keep in mind, all those passive skills are ranked up to level 2. At the beginning of like a bracket of your Star Soul, which we can check out, by the way, like Pupil Eternal Darkness, which I haven't maxed yet. basically, if we check out the level up, once I gain one more level up, this will go to level 2. So it's always like, until we have to get to the next breakthrough where you need Star Soul materials again, the last level will grant you level 2, the first level, the level 1. So that is the way this usually works. All those are level 2, so this is the higher effect. When the target with Root of Confusion, which is the effect that we inflict with our Star Soul skill over here on one random enemy for 3 rounds every single time the hero acts, release basic attacks, they will take damage equal to 20% of their max HP caps and 1500% of their attack, but it's still a decent chunk of damage, I guess. Decent, I take it, very nice. Next one, when inflicting Root of Confusion reduces the target's energy by 50. That is naughty, I have to say. If you have a fast hero inflicting that, kind of taking away all the energy from the enemy, then again, we have heroes or we have artifacts now that give 100 energy, so bringing us to 150 energy. Leaving the enemy actually in a position where they still could do an active skill if they choose to run deific energy artifacts. Still very powerful skill and a lot of energy drain that we actually get through this. Then we have this. When the target with Root of Confusion releases basic attacks, each target who receives the attack also has a 50% chance to gain 1 layer of vigor. So basic attacks that target a lot of enemies now have a pretty big chance of supercharging the enemy team with Vigor, which kind of hits some heroes that do that and hit a lot of enemies. IAE is certainly one. Then again, a lot of people run her as just like a suicide hero, so just without balanced strike, making her a little bit squishy and not actually intending for her to attack with a basic attack and then also with an energy artifact, so probably not going to be the problem or something that will push IAE out of the meta, not at all. But for some heroes like SQH hits a lot of enemies with the basic attack. That is something I'm thinking about right now. Is there another one where I would say that is currently in the meta? Probably not. PvE, not really. LFA, which is not really a PvP hero, I guess, but yeah, would be one of those. So it's something that you will think about when you design your PvP teams, I reckon, because you certainly don't want to supercharge the enemy with Vigor and, well, after 5 stacks fulfillment, because that is kind of mean. Then the last one, and this one is mad. Allies can gain up to 3 different kinds of fulfillment, which gives us a little bit of extra context here, because fulfillment cannot be obtained after reaching the max limit. So it doesn't actually say what the max limit is. I assume it is 1 initially. So only 1 fulfillment effect can be on a hero. This upgrades it to 3. So 3 different fulfillment effects on the same hero. And the same effect cannot be stacked, so I reckon it probably cannot be chosen. So you can have 3 of those, which means you can be immune to 1 control effect, immune to 1 damage over time effect, and your attacks cannot be dodged or something. So yeah, kind of mad if you get the right selection of that, which is RNG, but if you get the right selection of those, certainly an interesting thing. And then after fulfillment reaches the max limit, cannot be obtained anymore, increases the value of effects enhanced by Vigor by 30%. So probably Vigor buffs enhanced by 30%, which is huge. I don't know if that is like conditional on like having 3 fulfillment effects already, or if this is just like a general thing that you get. If that is like a general thing that you get, it's super valuable to upgrade this to the max certainly, because that is like an extra 30% on each of those. An extra 30% on 75 speed is madness. Because if we calculate that, if you just calculate the speed, so the 75 times 1.3, that is like 97.5, and then times 15 is 1462.5. So 1462.5 speed buff if you just get speed all the time, and if this indeed just buffs them by 30% all the time. So crazy. We have crazy amounts of buffs here, which come from Vigor. So I mean, like, the question is also, you get 1, so the way they describe this, when Vigor is obtained, the owner also gains 1 of the following effects. The question is now, does this count as just like an attribute buff, or is this like a skill effect? That is a big difference, because the difference is in the counterability. Can we counter that? Can we potentially spread that with DGN? Because if you can spread that with DGN, that is another threat in itself, probably. Well, maybe for PvP as well. not too sure. And then again, Infinite Era Likita would gain a ton of value through this because, well, we have authority manipulation. Converts one random attribute buff owned into corresponding attribute reduction, so potentially we can now nuke all of these stats. Or it is a skill effect, in which case none of that would work on it. Also, maybe a little bit more PvP value for, where is it? There we go. Shades of Destiny. Copying attribute buffs and removing them from the enemy could be very valuable. The question is, of course, is this the skill effect or is this like an attribute buff? And this is something we'll have to explore. And for that, we probably will do a live stream and we'll look into that as far as we can, because obviously it will take some time to unlock this. It is the problem here, of course, that we can't really hoard resources in advance to unlock this immediately. We'll have to go with the events, get them one by one, all the star souls and all of that from the events right now. Even the recent events from the Reverie boxes didn't include any of the materials, and as far as I've seen, yeah, the boxes did not upgrade it, because we have a 5th material right now. It is actually in the Lunatic Asylum event, where we check this out right here, where we have the Star Soul materials. We can see there is now an extra Star Soul for the Bloom Genesis Radiance, and all of the other materials, of course, as well, like with a little apple, I guess it is. And now the last one, this I have no idea what this emblem, we could say, that is now also in the events. Nothing of this we could earn in advance, so I had kind of a downtime where I just like didn't really go with the events, but yeah, I guess to keep my account up to date, there is no other option now. For this weird game mode, which I always forget the name about, which ran a single time, Realm Clash. I'll tap here to explore the sanctuary. Yeah, I'm happy to do so, thank you. Yeah, I guess it's a new client. Yeah, with this event, which never came back for whatever reason, I liked it. We can also take a look, of course, into these skills, because those were rather important at that time. These skills, they kind of focus around HP restoration and soldier consumption. These soldiers, of course, being the soldiers that you can earn through those buildings, giving pretty decent buffs, I have to say. So kind of nice. I mean, you can get the attack buffs and everything, and usually your soldiers are rather quickly consumed. With that, it's a little bit slower. The question, of course, remains, is this the thing that you really want to run in that game mode? We get HP restoration, soldier consumption, then we get this Genesis domain, reduces soldier consumption by 50% at the designated location. Doesn't tell us the range. It does indeed. Within a 5-tile radius, I stand corrected. When releasing the skills for every 1 tile, the allied exploration team within the range restores 20% HP. HP restoration can kind of be an issue, yeah, certainly. I have to say, I would probably not go for that skill. At least Plume Time Manipulation was definitely more interesting. Because the thing was, it gave us time acceleration. Time acceleration reduces the action point consumption. And in that game mode, I noticed for myself that the action point consumption was usually the more limiting factor for me in moving towards enemies and destroying their chips and farming their resources. I quickly lost on my action points. And if you have this skill, this certainly makes it a whole lot easier. And thus, I have to say that I personally prefer those. So you can only use one of them every single day, like one of those skills. And so the decision is between them. And I would probably at this point still go for Plume Time Manipulation in this Clash game mode instead of Bloom Genesis. So we don't have the strongest Sanctuary Assist skills here. For resource farming, Spectre is still a lot better for general gameplay. So probably not this very interesting, but we have probably one of the most interesting active and passive skills here. Skill-wise, I was expecting super low. I was expecting super low attack and HP. Looking at the skills, I was like, that has to be like at the bottom. But we have 22.5 million attack here and 5.1 billion fixed HP. Maybe we put that in comparison to Spectre right now. Where we have 27 and a lower HP. So more attack here, which many people will like, but lower HP at that. So is something that is rather interesting, maybe to put it in comparison to Plume Time Manipulation as well. Plume Time Manipulation had even lower attack. And is this also lower HP? 5.4 billion? 5.4 billion? 1 second. No. Okay. So the the connection is still there between the attack to HP ratio, but we have rather nice numbers here. Rather nice numbers. Yeah, overall, what can I say? So I definitely want this immediately on my account. Please, DH, deliver it. I don't know, send me like 20,000 star souls. That will send me nothing, of course, as always. But yeah, I will definitely go for it. I think it is one of the more interesting star souls for PvP and PvE. Where would I rank it? Tough to say. Like, just for my initial impression, somewhere on the level of Plume Time Manipulation. It is not really the one that I would want to run probably on my main damage dealer necessarily. It is probably something that I would put on some support and then have my main damage dealer profit from it. So probably keeping Spectre on LFA, and then this goes to some support hero. I don't know, maybe to SQH or something. Could be interesting. And will definitely be quite exciting. The only problem I still see is like keeping an attack order with the speed buff. That could be kind of tough. You definitely want to have huger gaps between that, but getting the extra attack, getting like all of this, especially for Star Expedition, I could see the immunity to control effects being bonkers. It's like an S tier perk, like a full artifact that you just throw on every single hero. Yeah, the problem really is, I mean, the bosses are immune to Root of Confusion. It says it right there. Invalid on bosses. So the question will be, is this just the first part? Can we inflict Root of Confusion? We just don't get the basic attack change. And then we also don't really get basic attacks from Star Expedition bosses, mostly active skills. So even if that works, that is still the next question. How many basic attacks are you really going to get? Probably not that many. So for Star Expedition, I would want to run it, but it will be a little bit tougher to actually get it going compared to PvP, where you get a lot more of those effects. And for PvP, as I said, the deciding factor is, are those skill effect buffs or are those attribute buffs? That will be the question. That will be very, very deciding, and we will find out all about this in my upcoming live stream. Stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. 70 or 80% already unsubscribed on this channel. Well, not, you didn't unsubscribe, you were never subscribed. Still watching the videos though, which I'm thankful for, so that is rather nice. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will see us in the next one.